Bam.
This is Terri Jay, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Hello, Terri Jay. It's great to have you on the show. I love what I get to do. I get to meet incredible people. Now, if things had worked out a tiny bit better, I would have been up at your place where you live because I love to go remote and I love to sit face to face across from people. And I know, look, I'm not the oldest person in the world. I just turned 53 a couple of weeks ago. But here's what I do know from being all over the world is when you sit in someone's space and you visit with them, it's different. There's a real connection. And as someone who connects to people in lots of ways, what do you think about that? I mean, look, this is convenient, right? This is great. We actually get to do this. We didn't have to postpone. But what are your thoughts on face to face versus something over the computer or something through the ether?
I actually prefer distance connections. I do because then I'm just reading the energy. I'm not
Mm,
even
mm,
looking at the physical. And the
nice.
physical
Yeah.
can be very, very distracting. So I think I'm more clear, like when I'm doing my readings, if
Mm,
I'm just over the phone. People say, can I send you pictures? Nope, don't send me pictures. What about video? Nope, don't want any video. And they,
yeah.
they think that's really weird because don't you need to see them? No, I want to feel them. And
Mm.
that's where I come from, is feeling the energy of it. People say, well, what are you reading if you're not doing cards or palms or runes, or what are you reading? And I'm reading energies. That's what I'm doing.
Mm. How does one get better at that?
Oh gosh, get one of my books. Seriously, because it really teaches you how to do it. People that do this kind of work say, "Oh, I'm special," or "Oh, I'm gifted," and it's
Mhm.
no, you're not. You're not. These are abilities that all of us are born with, and so we just need to learn to, turn them loose again, so to speak, and develop them, because these are abilities, and we're
Mm.
born with intuition, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, and claircognizance. Clair just means clear, so it's clear knowing, clear hearing, clear seeing, clear feeling, plus intuition, and all of those together makes you telepathic too. So it's pretty fun.
Okay, I'm putting the link into the comments, and at least if you're on YouTube or on the Break It Down page on Facebook, that should pop in. But either way, there's the link. Look, you just go to terryj.com.
That's it.
That's
That's
just,
real
let's not
easy.
complicate this stuff. We
No,
don't need a medium to tell us that. Just
no.
terryj.com. um,
No.
you must get a lot of cynics and critics who don't believe in what you do, but you must also conversely have people who are like, anything that Terri J says, I have to believe now because X happened, and there's no way anybody could know that, especially over the phone.
Right.
What are some of those examples when you blow yourself away?
That happens to me almost every reading because my mouth is going and I'm channeling information. I mean, I assume that's what I'm doing. And my conscious brain is going, oh my God, shut up. That can't be right. And then I've got my client in tears or laughing and having a really emotional response to what I've just relayed. So it is spot on. And I joke that my TV show should be called I Can't Make This Stuff Up, but I want to use the other S word too.
Well, you can on this show, so that's
Well,
fine.
maybe
You can.
maybe if we're on streaming, we can use that one. you know. So um it's very, very specific, the stuff
Yeah.
that I get. And there's
Mm,
tons of examples on my website in the testimonials and the details. Oh my goodness. Especially from
yeah.
people on the other side. The details are just incredible. And as long as people are open, receptive, it's almost like it opens the channel and more flows. When people say,
Yeah.
tell me what you got. No,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing that. No. Tell me what
It's
you need.
It's crazy. My last girlfriend, before we met, her husband had passed, and she was trying to sort through all this stuff, and she went to a medium, and the person did a reading with her. And one of the things that she wrote, among a whole bunch of things on a sheet of paper, she's kind of a free writer.
Uh-huh.
Um, she wrote my first name, and there was no other Pete's in Rachel's life, and I
Wow.
wasn't even quite in her life yet. So you have these things, and sure, you can make something up, but the lady didn't write John or Jim or
Right.
Mike. She
Right.
wrote Pete. That is not a common name to write
No,
down.
no, it's
and
not.
and then I popped into her life, and we had our relationship. So there is something there, and we call it whatever, vibrations or
Right.
beings, but but that's because those are the words we have, right? And as we get more connected and down the road and more educated and more accepting of some of these things we can't explain, we probably can explain them better. But for right now, this is what we've got.
Well, I love physics. I know it sounds funny because I'm a cowgirl, but
Hmm.
physics is one of my favorite things to explore, and even quantum physics,
Mm,
because I know without a doubt this is all energy, frequency, and vibration. It's all physics. And all I'm doing is picking up on vibrations and frequencies that other
yeah,
people miss. So
yeah.
it has to be explainable for me,
Mm,
because I was never into any of this stuff before I had my opening back in 1990. I never would have imagined doing this, for a living, and helping so many people and their animals. I mean, that to me is such an incredible blessing to be able to do that.
yeah, yeah. So I used to have. He's passed on, but there was a very, very, very smart quantum physicist. He was a cosmologist, and his name was Andrew Friedman. And he was on the show several times, and we talked about. Here's how complicated this stuff is to figure out with science, right? So they took a couple of stars, and they used the stars for random number generators. And these stars, there are galaxies that are 21 million light years apart. Like these things cannot communicate. And they just basically turned on, and I'm very, very much simplifying what he's saying. They basically turned on their machine that said like a binary response, one or two, one or two, one or two, one or two, or one and zero, whatever it's going to be. And these things shouldn't agree with each other unless you have quantum entanglement. And
Hmm.
so it should be somewhere near 50-50. And of course, you run many, many iterations of this exercise to see. And here's what they found. It's called the cosmic bell test. You guys can look it up on the internet. I'll put a link in there in a second for the cosmic bell test. But they have this machine where they should have complete random variables because they're measuring two things that are totally far away in a completely scientific way and with a yes, no kind of value, or one or a zero value. And here's what they found out. There was correlation. These things were linked because the number was always greater than 50%. And so
Wow, that's great.
you're like, wow, and so if entanglement works across a lot of light years, then of course entanglement works with us. We're struggling in science to understand it. But the reality is there you are, you're experiencing it.
And we're all connected to each other. I had a really weird experience. You know how weird people dress in Walmart? There's whole websites dedicated to
Yeah, 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 yeah.
weirdos in Walmart, right? Well, I was in there one time and I looked at this woman and I was just about to think, does not own a full length mirror. Because I
Mm,
know if she owned a full length mirror, she would not come out dressed like that. And it was uncharitable, and I was a little bit sorry for it. But what happened is I heard my guidance say, look. And so I looked at her, and there, out of her third chakra, which is solar plexus,
mm,
was this gorgeous blue, I don't know what, blue energetic connection.
yeah.
And it went from her third to everyone's third. And it
Mm.
was like this mass moving connectedness in the store. And it was like, holy crap, we are all connected. And so luckily I didn't get to finish my nasty thought, but it was so interesting because then it was like, you need to know and understand we are all connected. And so what happens to one can affect everybody else. So that was a really interesting thing that happened.
Yeah, it's the connection thing happens to me all the time too. And some of this could be coincidence, but when coincidences keep coinciding with reality, you're like, hey, what's going on here? So just yesterday, I was talking to a guy that I'm going to have on the show, and he's a entrepreneur in the tech world. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know someone who has a product that's right in your zone. Maybe you guys have something to figure out together, maybe not. But it just so happens that maybe 4 shows ago, I had this lady on, and he's like, oh, you know what? I met someone exactly like that. They were from Switzerland, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the same lady. There's no way it's the same person. And so it's this lady Katya that we had on from a company called Algorized, and he's like, yeah, that was her. I saw her at CES. Yes, CES is a giant place for technology and everything. But this
Sure.
guy in this giant place happened to see is like, oh my gosh, this is relevant to my field. And then he happened to talk to me, 10 days later. And it's like, well, how next? And that is one of probably 2 dozen examples where two completely unrelated people and events are connected through me, and I'm like, well, this is not just coincidence all the
No,
time.
it's synchronicity. That's what it's
Right.
called.
Yeah.
Synchronicity. Yeah, that happens all the time. I
When you
love
look
it.
at, can everybody be a medium?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's such a good question. Yes. We're all born with all of these abilities, like I shared, and we turn them off in childhood, probably because we scared the bejesus out of somebody by pointing to a wall and going, Grandpa, Grandpa. And of course, Grandpa
Hmm.
died before this child was born. And they're insistent on it. So the parents can either go, that's interesting that you see Grandpa, tell me about him, or they can say, shut up, you're lying. And there's more shut up, you're lying than there is tell me about it stuff. I'm working with a 5-year-old now who directly relays to her parents the condition of the horses. If they have pain, if they have hurts, if they have worries, this 5-year-old is relaying to her parents this information. And I've known them before they had kids, the couple. And so they're using me to help try to decipher, is this real? What's going on?
Yeah.
And to try to enhance this child's abilities, not squash them like usually happens.
It's fascinating. My buddy Jay Moore had that kid Tyler. What's his name? He tours around the nation, goes to those
Right,
theater shows, right?
right. Sure,
And he is just the smallest, meekest, mildest mannered little dude, but he fills theaters
sure.
with his ability to do this stuff. It's remarkable.
Yeah, but everybody can do it. I think that's the difference is people will say, "Oh, you're gifted or you're special," and no, I'm not. No, to me,
Yeah.
artists and musicians, they're really gifted. Those are gifts. And what I do is just a skill that I was given an opening where I went, huh, that's weird that I'm telepathic. I never knew that. And, talking with a handicapped child that was nonverbal, and it just sort of snowballed from there. Luckily, very slowly,
Yeah.
because when I work with students that are learning this, they all say, "Oh, I wish I could do everything you do," and I go, "No, you don't. If I woke up with these abilities, I would be institutionalized. I
Yeah.
guarantee you,
Yeah.
because it's too much unless it comes on gradually."
The Yeah, that's such a great point. And we look at people that struggle with mental health, and it could be that, look, one of the things that we are learning through science is that genetics determines over 50% of who we are and what we can do. Like
Right.
it's amazing. And then we're getting smart at like which specific gene sets and matches give us particular traits. And
Sure.
so if you're someone that maybe their gait is too wide, or whatever it's going to be, and they get too much too soon, or the machine breaks through drug abuse or a car accident or
Sure.
whatever it is, yeah, man, it's going to be hard to deal with reality because you're blending realities in a way that we're not trained or equipped to deal with.
No, this is weird stuff. I mean, to me, it's still weird because when I'm doing a reading, it's not my stuff.
Mhm.
A lot of times I'm getting information, I'm sharing that information, and then in my storehouse of knowledge, I may have a solution to that problem. So then I switch to me sharing what I know about a subject and how to
Yeah.
deal with it. And I just think, wow, now I know why I had to go through that
Mm.
in order to get the information to be able to share today. So it's always so gratifying, to be able to help people. It really is.
When you're dealing with pets and people and animals, because not animals are pets, right? I mean, how does that work? Are you really just reading the person?
No?
Can you read, and I'm just going to ask dumb questions. I'm not trying to put you down, but I'm curious. Like, can you read a grasshopper or a field of grasshoppers? Can you read a tree? Where are the limits? And like, I mean, a shark has a brain for functioning and it's got instinct, but like a butterfly primarily works on its native algorithmic programming, right? Like it's just going to go do the things it does.
Yeah.
Does it contribute to the vibration? I don't know.
I think every living thing does. It's
Okay.
really funny, but somebody told me years ago, oh, 20, maybe 30 years ago, a tree told me, and then,
Hmm.
something, and I went, no, what a bunch of BS. And,
Yeah.
and and just recently, we don't have any trees on our property because it's high desert.
Right.
But anyway, I had to go to this park that's across the valley, and it's by the Mormon fort, which has been there for well over 100 years. And they
Mm.
set me up near this tree that probably had a 10-foot diameter. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And I was trying to set up and get ready to do readings for people, and this tree wouldn't shut up. It was so bizarre. The tree
Yeah.
was telling me, what it's seen. It was telling me that it had center rot and that it didn't know how much time it had left. But yet it still had some nests in its branches for birds. And it was just so interesting
Hmm.
because it was like having somebody talking in your ear the whole time you're trying to do readings for other people. And I'd be, okay, there's nothing I can do about it. So can you just be quiet?
Right.
Because
Right.
everything, I mean, it's just picking up on the vibrations from that tree. It's just incredible.
That's hard to wrap my head around, and
Yeah, it was
it's
for me because I
yeah.
thought, 30 years ago, oh, trees don't talk. What are you, nuts?
What are you crazy? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And to not even be thinking about this and have that table set up near that tree, and of course the tree's energy radiated probably about 20 feet because I think
Mm.
its energy field was as wide as its root system.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
a big old cottonwood. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it was fascinating because I just kept standing there feeling the tree. That's how I was getting the
Yeah.
information.
Well, you're making me think about pipe organs. And, a pipe organ is just this big, beastly instrument. We don't ever think about it, but if you go see one live in a church or with a symphony, it has to play very delicate with the symphony because a piccolo can't touch. Like a pipe organ has 25 piccolos.
Right.
And like the power to push all that air through, plus those big, gigantic, earth-shaking bass pipes. And so you can have this machine that is sending out vibrations through the entire room. Your clothes literally will move, and it's not even turned up all the way. Like the
Right.
room has to be designed to withstand the power of that
Yes.
of that organ, right?
And that's a machine. We're not
Right.
even talking about a living thing. It's a machine that's doing that.
Yeah. So
So
is
it's
it
very
hard to
different.
go to a stadium and sit there, or can
Oh, I
you
could
shut
never
it up?
do that. No, no, no.
Yeah.
I pretty much avoid crowds and public gatherings as much as
Mm.
possible. And the other thing is I can't
Hmm.
listen to music.
Yeah.
Music is painful to me. So any
Mm.
place where there's music is a real struggle for me. It's a real struggle to adapt. When I was at the premiere for the TV show, the TV series that I'm in, that was really a challenge just going to the premiere. And the weird
Mm.
thing was everyone knew me from seeing my face on film all the time because it was the crew besides the cast, and it was the weirdest feeling because it's like everybody knew me, and
Yeah.
I think of myself as almost like a hermit sitting here in my little cave,
Yeah.
doing readings all day, and to go to something like that was just, it was extraordinary.
A cowgirl in the high desert. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so there's a couple interesting things here to explore. And I want to go back to the pipe organ thing for a second. If you sat in a room with the pipe organ and the person tried to really blow you out, like emotionally, physically, hearing wise, they could do that. Like they could really turn it up. So I wonder if
Yeah.
people can turn up their vibration on purpose to
Yes.
to to be weaponize it or to make like other things go away.
I don't think you can use these abilities for for evil or
Okay.
bad, because you know why? Ego would have to come in. You would have to
Mm,
have a difference in
okay.
intention. Your intention would be different. And if you tried to use this stuff with negative intention, I don't think it would work because your vibration would have to be so low if you
Yeah.
had negative intention.
Mm,
Remember in physics, all we've got is positive and negative energy. That's all we've
yeah.
got. And
Yeah.
so this has to be done with the highest of intention. I want to help, I
Mhm.
want to heal. Because if you came up and said, "Ooh, I'm going to try to kill people with my thoughts," it's not going to work.
Yeah,
No.
right. I mean, and maybe there's someone has some kind of radio tuning where they can do that, but it is interesting to think if we are truly all connected, and some of us have developed or can develop the ability to translate what they're hearing because you don't speak cat, you speak something else, right? And you're able to translate that emotion, that those feelings into something that means something to the person you're reading for.
It's really interesting, but animals do have a lot of words. And I often work with like professional barrel racers, and one of their young horses will say words, more words, words, no. Like they
Mhm.
want to have those words, because then there's no question, because people are so not telepathic normally, and horses are so telepathic. That's how they communicate with each other. And so when we can learn to communicate the way they want to be talked to, it just makes things so much easier. It's like wild horses. Do you know the first time you work with a wild horse, the horse is screaming, "Don't eat me. Don't kill me to eat me," because they're a prey animal. People don't get that. They want to go, "Oh, come here, nice little pony." You know, it's like, and the horse is in fear for its life. And so that's a big obstacle to get over. And if you tune in your telepathy, you can really get through to them very quickly.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And
Yeah.
when you meet a horse, I mean, I don't know about wild horses, but when you meet a horse that's like, left to its own devices for the most part, yeah, you're wary of what they might do, right? And you come up and they love to use their mouth to mess around with you, to play,
Yeah.
sometimes to bite, but usually not to bite. Like they're very oral, at least from my experience. I'm not a cowboy.
We have one that gives facials. We call them slime facials.
Yeah,
She'll just take and just slime your whole face. She says it's
yeah,
kisses, but
hmm,
no, it's a slime facial.
yeah,
I should be able to package it and sell it and have people come over and get a slime facial, make extra
yeah,
money. And
yeah.
she's very lippy. She does zippers and Velcro, and grabs ties on your hoods and
Oh, that's
takes your
great.
hat off. I mean, she's pretty obnoxious. She'll hand you her bucket when she's through eating too. It's pretty funny.
Horses are smart. I mean,
They
there's
are.
dogs are smart. There's all kinds of animals. Pigs, oh my God, I feel bad for eating them. But then, like the last pig that was a pet that I encountered could lay down in its spot, tell it go to bed. It would go lay down in its spot. It would grab its blanket and it would throw it over itself.
Yeah, pigs
I'm
are
like,
really
that
smart. I
they
think
are
they're
really
smarter than
smart.
dogs. The only
Yeah,
justification we have for being able to eat animals, because we are omnivores, we are,
yeah,
is the fact that once an animal is deceased, and hopefully they're humanely euthanized, once they're killed, they don't care what happens to their body. They
yeah.
don't. They're out of it. They're not attached to it anymore. It's not like you see in the TV and movies where, "Oh, there's my body," and, "Oh, I'm dead." There's none of that stuff.
Mm.
Animals pop out of their body, do the wet dog shake, and just take off running just for fun.
I had the craziest dream the other day. So my brother passed away in 2021, and I don't normally dream about him very. You have like normal characters in your dream.
Sure.
Maybe it's an undefined person too, or maybe it's someone who just always comes up. But my brother was never really in my dreams. But the other day I had the clearest dream, and it was in a setting that was familiar. I didn't know really what it was, and there was like this like a sub office inside of a house that felt like it was probably home. And he poked his head into like the processing window, like when you check in at the doctor's office. It was
Yeah.
that kind of a wall, but small, like 10 by 10. And he was talking to me, and I'm like, "Do you realize that you're dead?" And he didn't know. And like I had to explain, I'm like, "No, you died." And it was so clear. Terry, like I'm like, I remember a lot of my dreams, and sometimes I can manipulate them. Sometimes I can take notes on like, oh, I gotta make sure I remember this part of the dream so I can
Uh-huh.
tell someone. But this was just such like a real thing. Sometimes some dreams are just completely different than other dreams. This is one of those times.
That's
So
usually a
what
visitation
yeah.
when it's crystal clear like that. That's a visitation
Yeah.
when it's almost like you meet in the middle where
Yeah, okay.
you raise your vibration, or you have a high vibration and he lowers his a little bit so you can kind of meet
Yeah.
in the middle. That's a
Well, I
visitation.
was able to, at some level, realize that, like, oh, I'm communicating with my brother. Like, maybe he got a pass from wherever, and like, hey, you can go meet with the family member. And so he came and saw me. Maybe that's what happens, right?
No, you can do it all the time. I do it all
Yeah.
the
Well,
time.
I can't.
Yeah,
and so, and so I'm like,
you
oh man,
can.
he doesn't.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you did. You
Yeah, I
did.
did.
So
I
I
did.
guess you
Well,
can.
and I took that opportunity to say, you don't realize that you're dead, but you're dead, and everything's okay. The family is provided for. We've done a good job in getting them transitioned. Look, there's a lot of problems to come, but the big problem that he would be worried about was, can they get through this time? And we are getting through it, right? And so I guess,
Can I gently stop you there, Pete?
please.
Okay, there's a really hard dividing line in physics. There's positive and negative energy. We are 99% energy, only 1% physical. When we go to the other side, the only thing that can go with us is the positive, happy stuff.
Okay.
And people on the other side cannot perceive anything negative in the
Mm,
earthly realm.
yeah.
So even
Yeah.
though you're assuming that he would be concerned about his family, if everything positive was going on, graduations, weddings, births, all that stuff, he would actually be present for that stuff.
Mm,
But negative stuff, worrying about the family, not even in his wheelhouse at all.
yeah. Well,
So
maybe I
yet,
brought that to him then. Maybe, yeah,
yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
but he
Okay.
probably wouldn't have even been able to perceive it because of
Okay.
that hard dividing line in physics.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, when mediums pick up on negative stuff, and I'm not, blaming them, but when somebody dies and they shut off all their negativity, it looks like, feels like, and sounds like the deceased, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's their garbage. So when somebody shares negative stuff in a medium reading, they're dumpster diving. That's the
Mm,
only explanation. They are dumpster diving. They're in the
yeah.
garbage. It is not
Interesting.
how the person is on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that, heck, I don't know, right? Like I'm just
Right.
experiencing, and I'm trying to relate something that I'm only grasping like 1% of what I experience because that's all I can hold on to, right? And
Sure.
so I for sure miss things. So here's another thing, and again, who knows? Could this be a coincidence? Sure, but I'm going to have you on the show. I've done a little bit of research, but I don't want to do too much because I want to be in the moment with you and
Sure.
rely on my skills. I've got a lot of skills in interviewing people. I've interviewed a
You
lot of
do.
people.
You're good. You're
Thank
really
you.
good.
When you've been shot at and conducted an interview at the same time, you develop a skill set. So I'm going to have Terri Jay on the show, right? And I'm looking into your. So everybody should go if you have Peacock, go check out the show, and it's called Paul T Goldman, and it's sort of I don't know, it's sort of like a reality show of sorts. And there's a guy named Paul T Goldman that actually exists. He's like, I'm just going to tell you this crazy stories in my life, and the person that plays Terry in the show is a lady named Dee Wallace. She's a legit actor, has been around forever acting, and she's fantastic at it. So without doing any specific things, because I'm not going to necessarily interview Dee Wallace, we might, but um, she came up twice in videos that I was watching about. 'Cause I watch a lot of videos about old Hollywood just because I'm always thinking about that and everything.
Sure.
And twice there are videos that featured her, and I kind of just let those things play at random. I'm like, yeah, let the next one play, let the next one, and I'm doing dishes and that kind of thing. But Dee Wallace hasn't come out of my mouth in ever,
Right.
honestly. I mean, I'd never have said her name really that I can think of. And now in this last week before we got together today, twice she comes up, and I'm like, that is really a crazy thing.
No, it's a
It's really crazy.
synchronicity. It's a synchronicity. When
Yeah.
I remember this one reading that I did, and my guides, I call it the golden finger, because
Mm,
they'll like tap it, the TV screen, they'll tap at an object, and I see that golden finger tapping, 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 like, pay attention to this. And it's
mm,
like, okay, I got the message. So I'm watching TV.
yeah.
There's an ad on for Kraft macaroni and cheese. Blue box, blue box, blue box is what guidance is yelling. And I went, okay, I got it. Blue box. The very next day, I'm doing a reading for this gal who lost her boyfriend, and he's dancing around in the kitchen, and he's got a box in each hand like this, and he's dancing around, and it's a blue box. And I
Mm,
said to her, I said,
yeah.
this makes no sense to me. He's got a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese in each hand. She
Yeah.
burst into tears, but she was kind of laughing and crying at the same time. She said, Terry, you can't know this. That's all he ever cooked me. That's the only thing he knew how to make. So we all get those awarenesses where we're
Yeah.
supposed to pay attention to something, but we don't know why we're supposed to pay attention to it. And so I
Mm,
tell people, when you get those feelings of, hey, hey, pay attention, do it. Just pay attention, just sort of file that in your file cabinet in your brain, because
yeah.
it's going to come up. It'll come up.
It's crazy. I mean, it really is so we went up to Washington to go grab a show with a guy named Lee Oscar. He's a very famous musician from the band War. And while we were up there, we packed a couple other things into our day. My daughter lives up there, so we went and saw her. I've got a couple of friends up there, so we stayed with one and met with another one. But one of the things we did was we went and saw John, is a co-founder of the show. We went and saw his cousin, and it turned out she was really sick, with pancreatic cancer, and she was fighting and everything. But he got a chance to see her, and I was really relieved that he did. And John didn't want to go. He's like, I got too much going on in life. I'm stressed myself. I'm struggling. But I did my part to compel him to go because I know that, like, hey, we got to go do these things. We're 53. And legitimately, people in my peer group are dying every 2 months,
Right.
every 8 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. But she passed away yesterday, and so
Oh,
he was able to go see her, on the whatever the 20th or whatever it was. So 10 days ago, maybe, and he was against every urge that he had, right? And so we needed to come together and kind of combine our forces to get him in that space. And I'm so relieved that we did. And yes, we went and did a great show. We met with a guy named Hal, who's been on the show, who's become a friend, and all of these things are wonderful. But I really believe that I was compelled to go do this because it was about his cousin and him getting
right,
together.
right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I wish more people knew about energy healing, because energy healing
Mhm.
produces miracles. We're 99% energy, 1% physical, yet all of allopathic medicine is focused on that 1%. And
Mm,
all they've got reasonable testing. They got drugs and surgery. That's all they got.
yeah,
Seriously. And so I think for a lot of people, they're not going to change diet. They're not going to change lifestyle. And they're certainly not going to deal with their emotions that have caused the disease.
yeah,
To
yeah.
me, disease is disempowerment. Somewhere along
Mm,
the way, you've lost your power. And
yeah.
energy healing is free. That's the problem. It's free. You can do it for yourself. In the case of pancreatic cancer, the issues that cause it are power, ego, and control. That's what causes
Mm,
pancreatic cancer. Is
mm,
feeling that it's really funny because narcissists will get it, because their whole thing is to overpower people,
mm,
control people. And so a
yeah.
lot of narcissists get pancreatic cancer and liver cancer and those kinds of things. But it's also people who have been overpowered, who have had their power taken away, that that get those kinds of diseases. They're third chakra diseases. So
It's tough to accept what you're saying, and I'm saying this in a kind and friendly way because I'm learning and I'm trying to understand, but that is tough to hear. And I'm like, what? How can that be? But
it is.
the reality is when you get down to the actual nit and the grit, because I've had scientists on the show talk to me about how there are neutrinos flying through us all the time. And
Yes.
and you're like, when you get down at the neutrino level, you don't exist. You're not even, you're
Right.
air. Like there's
Right.
nothing there, just whipping right through an atom. It doesn't, it's so small
Right.
that the earth doesn't exist. It just goes right through the earth too.
Right. Pete, it's really funny, but I think about this, that if you took all of the liquid out of a human body and you
Hmm.
took all of the air, and if there's some CO2 because the process is going on, if you took all the air or oxygen out of a human body, you would be left with a pancake, some bones sticking up, and a
Yeah.
tuft of hair for those that still have hair.
Yeah.
That's it. It's 1% of who we are. And we
It's,
don't
it's crazy.
realize that
Yeah.
cells respond to emotions. And I use this example a lot because when we first fall in love, oh my God, we feel lighter than air. Nothing hurts. Our feet don't touch the ground
That's right.
because we're like enraptured.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is when we're grieving. We feel like we have cement shoes on. We can't
Yeah.
even pick our feet up to walk. We don't
Mm,
want to move. Everything hurts. And the only reason for that is because your emotions are telling your cells how to act and react.
mm,
And that's a given.
yeah.
That's a given. And
It
people
is.
a lot of times don't want to deal, with their emotions. They don't. It's too painful.
I'm curious what you think about this thing, given that, like when you're young, you date, and at least in the 80s and the early 90s when I was, growing up and dating a lot and everything, um, you do reach a point where one of the two of you was like, the switch goes off, and you're like, I'm just not into you. I
Yeah,
was 2 weeks ago, but I'm not. And then other people are like desperate. They must be together to be whole. And this is not a judgment. It's just a thing. Like we all know
right.
people who are like, wow, they got married again already. Wow, they
Mhm.
really moved on. And so you have these different things. What do you make of that practice of like constant not being whole until you have someone else and holding on to that person so dearly? And then the people who can just the switch goes off. You can't unswitch that switch.
No,
Maybe down the road somewhere you meet later on, but in that time and space, that relationship is over.
it's still energy. It comes down to energy. And I think people would do themselves a great favor if they had on their vision board what exactly they're looking for. And that way it's
Mm,
not such a crapshoot. they're going to actually manifest that person. I
Mm,
did.
yeah.
I can't believe I did. I got married at 65, you know, to
Look at
my
you.
middle school boyfriend. He found me after 47 years apart on Facebook. He found me on Facebook because he was getting a divorce. So it does happen. And once we were reconnected, that was it. We were reconnected. There was nobody was going to keep us apart.
It's I
Yeah.
it's funny. A friend of mine did something very similar. His middle school crush girlfriend, thing. They went off and had different lives, had different
Right.
families, and gosh, they are forever in love. And they
Yeah.
they were able to rekindle. And part of that's because of the greatness of Facebook. And the same thing has happened to me. A girl that I knew growing up, we're from the same class, and we never dated, we never considered dating, none of that kind of thing. And she was very, very attractive and got to go on a lot of dates. So I'm we're in love. And we have been for years now, right? And so we come from the same town. We had no reason to connect, but here we are, and because of my role in my class and her willingness to come hang out because our class is very close, we found out that we have this energy that we I can't account for it. There's no reason. You cannot write what happened to us. It's straight out of a Lifetime movie, just like
Right.
your
Just
relationship.
like ours. Yeah. It's really, really pretty weird. And
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times people get drawn to other people because they've had a past life together, and they're
Mm,
recognizing the energy of that being in each other, and they've had a past life, and
yeah.
so a lot of times they think that's a soulmate, which I don't believe in, and they'll be drawn to that person, and they'll insist on being with that person regardless of their circumstances or the
Right.
other person's
Right.
circumstance, and that breaks up a lot of families. It does, and a
Yeah.
lot of marriages. And sometimes when you meet somebody like that, all you're supposed to do is go, "Oh my God, I'm so drawn to you. I feel like we've had a past life together. Oh,
Right.
wow, I bet. Okay, bye bye." And they forget the bye bye part. It's like, "Oh, I have to be with you." I walked into a store one time and I stopped dead in my tracks. And the owner of the store, I looked at her and I went, "Oh my God, I know you." And she says, "I know you too." She
Mm,
goes, "This sounds really stupid, but I love you." I said, "I love you too." And she said, "We must have been sisters." So she was having the same experience that I was. But what's so fun is we're friends on Facebook, and here I am, this little short, senior person, whiter than white, and she's gorgeous, 5'9", and she happens to be black. And so people go, "You guys are sisters?" Because that's what we write each other on Facebook all the time. And we go, "Yeah, of course we're sisters." And people go, "Okay." Just like we're crazy. I love it. And I love
yeah.
her. I love her so much.
And even if all of that is BS, so
So
what? Look
what?
at that
It's
wonderful
good.
thing, right? And I'm not saying
Look
that
at,
it is. I'm just saying it's just this wonderful thing that happened. By the way, everybody, look at the link, especially if you're on YouTube. There's the link for going to watch Paul T Goldman on Peacock. You guys should definitely do that, and that supports the show, by the way, and helps us to continue to do things. I want to ask you more about the show and how you met Paul, and what do you make of this crazy show that
oh
you're
God. I describe it as a show about making a show about making a show. That to me is what is about how you describe it. And Paul was so cute. He said it's a docudramaedy. So it's a
Mhm.
documentary comedy drama. It's like all of it together. So I'm in the documentary part of it. And Dee plays me in the drama part of it,
Right.
and there's still so many comedic moments throughout all of it. I'm a whole bunch in the third, a little bit in the fourth, and I haven't watched the sixth because I heard I shouldn't, so
Mm.
I'm not going to.
All right.
So anyway, it's just about Paul looking for love, and he
Yeah.
first marries a Russian bride. He goes to Russia to marry a Russian bride, and that doesn't work out, and he ends up with a child, but he gets divorced, and then he's on dating sites, and he meets this woman that he thinks is going to be perfect, and she's kind of got a double life. So I did the original reading for him back in 2005, and I
Wow.
told him, I said, "Make sure you write all this down." And I think after that he audio taped all of the readings that I did for him, and I just sort of coached him through the end of that marriage.
Yeah.
She was not who she said she was. She was not. She was leading a double life.
Big
And
surprise. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was really interesting because if I hadn't have said she feels like a hooker, um, he would have just been really frustrated with the fact that she was, trying to take him for money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. So when he comes to you with this project, I mean, he's got to talk to you back. I think I'm going to do this. Okay, now there's people interested. No, really, we're having meetings and this is about to happen. I mean, this is impacting your life as well.
Yeah, it did. They came here in 2017 to Carson Valley and filmed me for 3 days on the place I was renting. It was a little, ranch house and everything.
Hmm.
And they tried to get me to shoot my own lines. I'm appallingly terrible at shooting lines. So
Yeah.
when they said they were going to get Dee Wallace to play me, it was
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Big
I don't
relief.
have to I don't have to do lines because I can't do them. They're terrible. I'm
Yeah.
terrible at it. So
Yeah.
anyway, they did a lot of footage and I thought, wow, this is great. It's going to tell Paul's story and it's just going to be wonderful.
And was it?
Well, I'm not allowed to talk bad about the series.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Let's not talk bad about the series. Let's not do
no,
that. Let's not even
no.
approach that.
No. So
But
it was a
yeah.
lot of fun and I've had tremendous interest in people wanting to get readings done because of being in the
Yeah.
series. So
Right.
I'm so grateful for that. It's just incredible because I love doing this.
Mm,
I can't make this stuff up. It's just incredible. Every reading to me is like opening a Christmas present. I don't know what's going to
yeah.
be in there.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
And
Yeah. So
hopefully it's going to lead to my own show too. So I'm really excited
that's what
about
I
that.
was going to get to is yeah, like, and then have you and Dee Wallace sat down and just had a chat?
Well, we did on set. We actually did on set and they filmed it and we did readings for each other. Oh
Oh,
my
that's
goodness, it was a
incredible.
hoot.
Yeah.
It really was. And I did a reading for one of the Russian brides, and they really had this Russian actress. And so I did a
Yeah.
reading for her. It was really fun. And it was so silly because one of the camera people said, did you go to Orange High? And I went, yeah, I did. This is back in
Of
Ohio.
course I did.
And he goes, I graduated. And he told me the year. And I went, oh, I'm way before you. But he said, I don't know why I know you. He said,
Yeah.
did you live in Pepper Pike? I said, yeah, I did. I mean, it's so weird. Just one of the camera peoples from where I grew up. It was so funny.
Yeah, that's interesting. A buddy of mine was an interpreter in Iraq. I'm going to get you there, so hang in there with me. He came to the United States. He's just a fantastic guy. He was my interpreter for a while, and uh, they're going to make his life. And he wrote a book, and it's amazing. Everybody should read Code Name Johnny Walker, and just because you've never heard this story before. But he's been my friend for almost 20 years now. He's been on the show a bunch of times, and they're going to make his life into a movie based upon the book. And I'm in the book because he was my interpreter. And so I can't wait if they can, how hard movies are to make, but if they get this thing off the ground, and if my character somehow makes it in, which I think it will because of the nature of what I did and the tool I might provide for them for the storytelling part. But if they do, I would love to interview the dude who's going to play me. I think that would be a hoot. It's
Oh
like you
God.
said, like,
But when I found out it was Dee, oh my
mhm,
goodness. People don't know this about her. She's an energy healer. She does readings. I mean, she's phenomenal. So they couldn't have picked anybody better, to play
yeah,
me. The
yeah,
funny thing is they put a long blonde wig on her. And I said, my hair's silver. And then they have these god awful shirts on her. Then I said, why
uh,
didn't you guys call me? I would have sent you what I wore back then. They were all
yeah,
these t-shirts with horses on them. That's what I wore in, 2005.
right.
So anyway, it was just pretty funny.
So is this relationship with Paul, has it been beneficial? Like, are you happy that you were captured in this fashion?
Um, I have mixed feelings about it because some of it was so good and some of
Hmm.
it was like, really, that's where you're going with it? So
Right. Well,
um
and look, you live on a ranch somewhere out in the middle of Nevada, right? So
yeah,
this isn't like you're trying to be part of a metropolitan area and be on it in everybody's business. But now,
no.
like you've kind of been like, here you are, like we're kind of taking your character and we're going to put you in something that doesn't really. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it seems to me, from what I know about you, this is not a spot where you're like, well, I'm totally comfortable with that.
No, the weirdest thing was at the premiere. And all these people saw my face on screen almost every day. And so here I am. And of course, I was very dressed very subtly. I had on a silver sequined Western jacket with 12-inch fringe. So you
Mhm.
couldn't pick me out of a crowd. Anyway, people were yelling at me from across the theater, "Hey, Terri Jay, hey, Terri." And it was like, who are these people? I don't know any of them. And they all knew me. That was
Yeah,
a weird experience because,
that is
I
weird.
just sit in my little cubby hole and do readings all
Yep.
day. And once in a while, they let me out to go do something in town. So
Yeah.
I'm just here all the time, just
Um,
working and doing this.
it is interesting. Like, look, I am in no way famous, right? But I am notable, I guess, right? You
Sure.
could say that. So I'm walking through the Dallas airport, and this is years ago now. And I always wear a break it down show shirt because if I'm going to wear a shirt, I may as well wear my own, you
Well,
know?
sure.
And some guy points at me. I don't think he knows who I am, but at the time the show was audio, and he goes da da da, which is our sound tag for the show.
Oh,
And
how
I'm like,
cool.
how in the world did that
Yeah.
just happen? You know?
Yeah. Yep.
But
Yep.
that means they listened long enough that that sound was programmed in the head. He saw the image, probably saw me or not, but the image and the sound. That's exactly why you make these things, so that
Sure.
happens. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. I was shocked that that happened and that the show had hit some of the place. And then the other thing I've learned, and again, this is because I have this silly show, but um, I have people, really good friends that identify with me and who I am all over the world. And
Well,
they're like, I love
sure.
what you do, right? And so
Yeah.
this ability to do this thing, to communicate, whether it's on Peacock or here on our computer, or if we were to get together up there, it builds this massive human network that for me is a very positive thing. And there's not a lot of negative energy. And when there is, I'm able to deflate some of that negativity because I can diffuse it. I can chew up a whole lot of negative stuff and be like, yeah, 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 chew the negative stuff up and discard it and just get to the essence of the person and do my best to not judge them.
Right.
And I attribute that partly because I have this look, I was a spy, right? My job is to get people to talk to me. I think I'm partly good at that because I have some kind of telepathic, I understand people, I get people, and I don't throw them away at the first glance. I'm like, oh, let me hear more of what you have to say. Even if it rubs me wrong, I can sit down and do that. Do you think, is there some kind of extrasensory thing that I haven't developed yet that I'm good at
Oh,
doing just
yeah.
naturally?
No, you're very, very intuitive. I mean, you're
Mm.
like one of those people. I have people call me all the time. They go, "Why are you calling me? You don't need
Mm.
me. Why are you calling me? Do you want to refund your money? Because you don't need me. You're
Yeah,
already doing this." But maybe they lack the self-confidence to really, go forward with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I love it when I do my workshops, and I haven't done one in quite a few years since before COVID. But it's so fun because they get the book and it's a one-day thing, and in the
Mm,
morning, all I do is answer questions, which is so fun. We break for lunch, we come back from lunch, I pair people up, and they start doing readings for each other. How is that even possible?
yeah,
And
that's
they
crazy.
go, "I can't do that." Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. And
You're
once
doing
in
it
a
right
while,
now.
yeah, once in a while, I just go help them ground, I'll hold their energy for them a little bit. And then I go, all right, that's better. So if somebody's not grounding correctly, and it's amazing what happens because that fast, just by getting out of their own way, not having ego, um, they can start doing all of this stuff. And then we'll go talk to dogs and horses, and those are the easiest ways for me to start is to do animals first,
Mm,
and then you can get into the other stuff that's maybe a little
yeah,
what seems more daunting, like doing mediumship and talking with animals that have passed away or humans that have
yeah,
passed away. But it's so gratifying,
yeah.
not only to do this myself, but to be able to teach it to others. That's, oh, when somebody goes, "Terry, I don't need you anymore." Yay, good job. And
I
when
win.
somebody and
Yeah,
when somebody tells me, "Terry, I'm doing this for a living. Go look at my website." It's like, "All right, good
that's
job."
great.
I'm so
That's
happy for them.
yeah, yeah. That's incredible. You know, through all of my hard-earned experience in combat, and talking to so many people, and hearing all of their horror stories because living in a combat zone is awful. It's just it's a terrible thing for someone to go
Yeah.
through, and just simply listening and accepting what you're hearing and going from there is it's informative. And one of the things I learned, you just said this a second ago, was to get out of my own way, don't bring anything with me. I call it tabla rasa, but basically a blank slate. Sure, I know a lot about Islam and I know a lot about Ramadan, but you tell me your version of it.
Sure.
And the other aspect of that I had to learn was my ego had to get put in its cage and be left alone because it was nothing about me. No id is allowed. I had to just
Right.
simply hear what they had to say and then contemplate on what it was. And that allowed me to, maybe you'll appreciate this. When I'm trying to collect something, right, and I'm doing an interview on this show or whatever it's going to be, sure, I'm hearing every word you say, but I'm not listening to you. I'm listening for things. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh, there's more there. I'm going to pull that lever and ask that question because I'm trying to get deep. And then once I get somewhere good that's deep, then I explore down there, like talking about animals and communicating, like I made earlier. I could just ask you the same 10 questions everybody asks you, but there's so much more to you. And I learned that by getting out of my way, smashing my ego back, and
Right.
just taking time to contemplate those
I to call it getting an egoectomy. You
things.
take your
Yeah,
ego out.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and one of the big things that I really work on is because when I started this, and I heard that nonverbal child back in 1990, I was a fustercluck. I really was. I was a
Yeah.
mess. I was insecure. I was in a really difficult marriage. I had just taken on two kids, 4 and 6 years old, and
Mhm.
so I was an instant mother. Oh my goodness, it was so challenging.
Yeah.
And 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 I was a mess because I had never dealt with the stuff from my childhood, my past, which was horrific. It was
Mm.
really horrific. And I had buried all of that stuff. And it was
That's what you
impacting me
do.
in all kinds of negative health issues.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
having to just start from square one and get to this point. I mean, I always want to go, how come this took so long to get to where I'm happy and healthy and abundant and doing something that I love every single day, and to be
Mm.
as old as I am and going, yeah, I'm gonna have a TV show. It's like you keep me getting all excited about that like a kid. And it's like, I think about Louise Hay and when she started her publishing company. And it's like, all right, we got this, we
Mhm.
can do this. And it's like all the people to help me are just being pulled into my sphere, and I'm so grateful for it.
Not that you're anywhere near done, because obviously you're not. But when
Oh
you
no.
reflect on your life, what's the single greatest thing that you did or you figured out? What's your contribution to humanity?
Then I can help people with these abilities. I think it's the biggest thing. I never think what is the worth of what I do. Never. I never
Mm.
question it because I know. And if you go look on my website and see all the testimonials, even when I pick up my one book that's about intuitive communication, and I think of all of the people that I communicated with that were unconscious, they're not aware. And I think I did that, and these are
Yeah.
like transcripts from people's testimonials. And I
Yeah.
so I'm so detached from the results of my readings, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. I'm detached from it. And then some of the other testimonials that I see on my website, I'll go look at them once in a while, see if I need to, upgrade them or something. And I just think, wow. And
Yeah.
there's still that conscious part that goes, how am I doing this? And it's just getting out of your own way.
It just keeps happening. You
Yes.
just keep ending up doing it. I definitely vibe with you on that. That is something that happens. I mean, it's not easy to run a show like this. It is very hard to get money to
Oh,
come out of the show,
sure.
but the rewards that I get are over the roof. Like they're just so many incredible
Sure.
experiences. And my friends who have to work a workday left, like, don't you dare quit. I see what you're doing. Don't you dare stop. I wish I could be you. I wish my life was that
Right.
hard. And I'm like, all right, and so I get some outside perspective because look, we are building something. I don't know where it's going. I try to figure it out. I try to put energy into something. I'm like, that flat out did not work. Like, let me
Right.
stop spending my energy there and just try to, like, you have to try things and fail a whole lot until you're like, this crazy ugly tree that I carved, like I always call like life a bonsai tree. It's just a stick and it's ugly and it's not right, but I'll be damned, it's what came out of all of this
Sure.
experimentation and love and everything else.
It's really weird. We have longevity in our genetics. My mom made it to 88, smoking and drinking every day of her life since she was a teenager.
Right.
And I'm serious about that.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure you are.
my dad is 90. He'll be 94 next month, and he's still
Whew.
working. He's still working. he says it's part-time, but I go, we're at work again. Well, they needed me,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's an optometrist. So his mother passed like at 102 or something, and it gives you a different
Oh, yeah.
perspective. So it's like when I hit 50, it was like on to the next 50 plus, not
Yeah. Yeah.
planning on dying, young.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's
Right.
not going to happen. And I still have so much to do. I have like 4
Ah,
more books to write.
good.
So, yeah.
Good. 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 I love it. What do you love about Paul?
Oh, just his honesty. He's just such a lovable goof. He really is.
Yeah.
And he means well. I
Yeah.
don't think he's got a mean bone in his body. And I hope somebody picks up the Chronicles for him and allows him to go down that path. His writing is incredible. I mean, this is a guy who was basically an insurance person before he had the first reading with me where I told him, you got to keep track of this. You're going to write a book. And
Yeah.
I don't do predictions, but he wrote a book. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
So I just wish him all the best. And I hope this ends up, being a good thing for him, even
Yeah.
though he's not happy about it at all.
Well, sometimes there's a lot of growth and unhappiness and things like that
Yeah.
are risky about this. And so it's
Yeah.
not the last thing you'll do. Hey, anything in closing before you wrap this up? Otherwise, we're going to, run the credits and get out of here.
I just really want to encourage anybody that feels like they have even the slightest bit of ability in this field, go for it. Educate yourself, get my books. They'll teach you how to do it in very simple terms. And who knows, you could end up doing it for a living too. It's so gratifying to be able to get this clarity and understanding in so many aspects of your life. And it really helps with your own personal growth.
I love it. I love it. All right, stand by for 1 second. Let me wrap this up. I'll come right back to you.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.